Hi everyone, I'm Charlie, and I'll be presenting to you on my research in which I've been testing for effects of urban noise on cognition and growth in a songbird. Now, it's well established that urban noise has major impacts on species in the urban environment. It can disrupt navigation, foraging habits, sleep cycles, hunting strategies, migration. Some birds even sing at odd times of the day to avoid heavy traffic noise. Urban noise can even indirectly affect seed dispersal by affecting various behaviors in animals. And in terms of health and cognition, urban noise has been indirectly linked to a number of potential health effects in humans and other animals by increasing the stress response and subsequently straining the body. Such examples include ischemic heart disease, high blood pressure, and shorter telomeres in humans. And in birds, urban noise causes higher embryo mortality. In urban noise for cognition, it's also responsible for a number of issues. Most studies have been done on humans that indicate memory recall and memory recognition are affected, but a study done on rodents has also shown that spatial memory is impacted. And thanks to a recent paper from Osborne et al. From the Templeton lab, we know that cognitive performance is in fact negatively affected by urban noise, in which I recommend you read if you're interested further in this kind of research. It's all of this information which led me to question the long-term consequences of noise on cognition and to look to see if chronic exposure to traffic noise during development negatively affects cognitive performance and growth. In order to answer this question, I raised about 50 birds total. Each pair was raised in cages in sound attenuation chambers you see here. Chamber doors were kept open, and there were no playbacks while birds were nest building and incubating eggs. This was because we didn't want high mortality rates caused by urban noise as cited in that previous paper. About 2 days before expected hatch, the chamber doors were closed and playbacks started. They'd receive these playbacks until adulthood, or 90 days. Broods are separated into three groups that you see here. So we have traffic noise, which were the recordings taken directly from areas known to have heavy traffic in local area. The second group was pink noise, which is a static-like sound and considered to be background noise common in nature. And then the final group, we have no noise, but they could hear their aviary flockmates. Noise produces a stress response, which can in turn induce effects on growth. So I think it is a good opportunity to take some measurements like mass, wing chord, and tarsus length, which we did over the course of those 90 days. We also know that physiological stress tends to affect carotenoid-based color ornaments in birds, so I also recorded the ornamentation of their bill over that same period of time. So once the zebra finches reach adulthood, they're given 10 days to calm down from the stress they may have been experiencing from playbacks, as we don't want this stress response interfering with our test question. We tested them on a neophobia task and then 4 different tasks designed to actually evaluate cognitive performance. First is the novel foraging task, which measures an individual's ability to learn a novel motor skill, where subjects are required to learn to pry lids from wells to obtain a food reward. So here's actually a video of a male solving one of these trials. So there he goes. He flips a lid, so that is actually considered a pass, since all you need to do is flip at least one of the lids to be considered a successful trial. And they have to do this 3 times in a row before actually graduating to the next task. Now, after passing novel foraging, they're promoted to color association, which is designed to estimate association learning. One color, white or blue, is randomly chosen that conceals a food reward, and the other color has no food reward. So in this example, food is hidden underneath blue and not white. 2 blocks are placed side by side, and they must remove at least 2 of the rewarded color, or they must remove all 4 of the rewarded color before removing any of the unrewarded colors. And after they succeed in this task 3 times in a row, they're promoted to spatial learning, which tests for its namesake. Blocks for this assay only have 1 well and are smaller than the blocks used in the previous assays. All wells are covered with lids, however, only 1 well contains food reward. And it's this rewarded block which is placed in one of the four corners, and that same rewarded corner is kept consistent throughout all trials. Finally, they're then promoted to detour reaching, which is the final cognitive task the birds have to actually complete. And this is intended to test for inhibitory control and route planning. They were first habituated to the object using a opaque black cylinder, like in this picture, where food is placed inside the opaque cylinder, horizontal to perches overnight. The next day, they must eat out of the opaque cylinder 3 times in a row to be promoted to the next phase, which utilizes the translucent cylinder. It's now oriented parallel to perches, and as you can see here in this picture from a study on Clark's nutcrackers, the individual must not attempt to eat the food through the sides of the cylinder, but rather either entrance. They need to do this 5 times in a row in order to finally graduate altogether. So I'm not completely finished running my statistics, unfortunately, but right now, based simply off of ANOVA's run on the 4 different tasks, there does not appear to be any significance. It's possible that I simply did not have a large enough sample size. If you look at the color association, it was actually pretty close to significance. And I think if you look closely to spatial learning too, you actually see that there is an expected trend pointing in that direction. So in conclusion, I think testing more birds might definitely have yielded a different outcome. We also never tested for social learning, where individuals learned a certain task by observing others, which is a task that was actually used in a very similar study I mentioned earlier by Osbrink et al. And we still haven't looked at the actual growth measurements and ornamentation data. So I think a combination of those previous 2 points and then looking more into what I did is definitely very important. And in terms of the 2 previous points, future study I think is obviously very important for understanding the effects of urban noise on cognition during development. So thanks for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some stuff from it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at the provided email. So thanks for listening.